All right, Tuesday, July 9th, another very slow session in the books here. ES moving 19.5 points. Your typical ATR is 46 points, so less than a half ATR move here on ES. Jump over to NQ, see what we're looking at there. NQ, a little bit more volatility, a little bit more action there today in NQ with 156 points versus a 251 ATR. So one of the things we had talked about yesterday during the pre-market prep and the session recap as well was the possibility for an early start to this week. And that is because we do have a couple of key events later this week on the economic calendar. CPI on Thursday, PPI on Friday, definitely going to be higher volatility, market moving events. But not only that, we have to take into consideration the context of the recent move. Price has been trading within a 2-week sideways range. We have the breakout and 3 consecutive trend days higher here on ES. Start to see a little bit of faltering yesterday, right? More today. So anytime you have that big expansion move, as always, we want to be looking for when price is going to start to slow down, when price is going to start to show that contraction yet again. And this is the cycle that both price and volatility are always in. Cycle of expansion and contraction. So you'll have a range and then a trend and then another range and then another trend. And the cycle continues with both structure as far as the actual what you're identifying within price action and then volatility as well. So volatility will have these periods of expansion where you're getting these big multiple ATR trend day moves and then tighter action. That's the cycle, just continues and repeats over and over and over again. So the faster that you can understand that and adapt your trading to that cycle, the better off you're going to be. And the reason I bring that up is just because I've been there before where you can make a killing on those trend day moves, those big volatility moves, just to give back most of your gains or all of your gains during the slower sessions. And this is something that I personally experience and I see in plenty of clients' results as well. So you have to understand market conditions are shifting from day to day, and how we approach each day makes a big impact on our bottom line at the end of the week and at the end of the month. So that being said, ES is now starting to show some initial clues, some initial signs of a bit of exhaustion. Now, we do want to keep anytime we start to see a little bit of exhaustion on the daily chart here, especially with a pretty explosive trend move higher, we always want to keep in mind what is the primary context, because plenty of other times we've seen these kind of exhaustion bars and price just manages to continue higher. So this is not like some clear reversal sign or anything like that. It just tells us that, all right, price slowing down a little bit. What we want to be looking at for tomorrow as far as this actual daily candle is concerned is whether or not sellers now identify this exhaustion and are able to show follow through below today's session low. So we'll be looking at the session low for tomorrow as the primary watch. And sellers have a decent opportunity here to actually show a down move, right? To actually show some continuation down through, at the very least, the opening print, which is not something that we've seen in quite some time. We do have some action today below that opening print, but not sustained, right? If we take a look at the intraday action today, sellers really unable to sustain the action below that opening range, right? You got to even have a fresh all-time high being made here early in the afternoon. So that'll kind of be the first little change in character if we do see that you want to be watching for. As far as what I'll be looking at for tomorrow, like I said, the reaction versus today's low. Now, if sellers are unable to show any type of continuation through today's low tomorrow, it really speaks to the strength of this market, right? So anytime you have some clear exhaustion signals within the trend and then price fails to really show that follow through, that reversal essentially, really speaks to the strength of the trend. Now, as of right now, remember the big picture context here as far as the actual structure that we're trading. Prior near-term range, 2-week range right through here, right, triggered the breakout last week. So we're still within the context of this breakout move. Even if price comes and retests that breakout point, this is still a bullish scenario. And this would be a pretty significant move here if price did come and actually retest that breakout point. I'm talking about full ATR move, most likely. So definitely not out of the question. We are now seeing 5 consecutive days higher. So anytime you start to get into the 5+ consecutive days in either direction, up or down, it is, you want to start thinking about, all right, where is the other side really going to start to show up? Now, like I mentioned this morning, that is not a blind invitation to be shorting, right? We still need price to confirm what it is that we are looking for. But again, you want to keep an open mind about, what can potentially lay ahead here for this structure. So that's ES. Main focus is going to be today's low, given this exhaustion bar right through here on the daily time frame chart. Now, taking a look at the actual near-term structure, as far as an update for levels of interest, still not very much to be working with outside of just the reference points, right? We got this reference point down here into 56.25. So I'll be looking at the action down into here, whether or not it is tested overnight or perhaps tomorrow, to see if this area is continued to be respected by price. And if it is, most likely this reference point will shift into a level of interest. As a reminder, the levels of interest are areas where price is respected that level repeatedly on the higher time frame charts. We have 1 or 2 tests in that area. Price is at all-time highs, no real structure, just purely reference points. And those should not be treated as significantly as levels of interest. So to zoom out a bit and just kind of give more clarity on this topic, remember our nearest level of interest is that 55.85 area, which marked a pretty significant high right through here, and then the breakout point right through here. So anytime you have kind of price responding to a level and marking a pretty large pivot, that is a significant level in price. And those are areas where you're going to find really strong trade opportunities. So as of right now, just continuing to work with reference points, right? Taking a look at the current structure here. Here was your breakout point, low, higher low, higher low, maybe a higher low, TBD. So price will not really start to even show a near-term change in character until yesterday's low is broken, right? Until this 56.15 area is broken. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on during the overnight session, and then into tomorrow morning and Thursday as well. It's kind of this near-term structure right through here. So those are a few of the things that I'll be looking for on ES. Depending on that overnight action, I'll share an updated plan as always tomorrow during the pre-market prep. Let's jump over to NQ. So pretty similar story here, right? NQ definitely a little bit stronger today. We were looking at a true gap higher. That gap initially sustains all the way until about 10 a.m. Yeah, a little bit after 10 a.m., you see the up thrust right through here, right? So you have a near-term structure, right? Just that first half hour. Initially, you have a spring undercut of that low. That is quickly absorbed. Price trades up into the high. There's your up thrust. So the up thrust is just the opposite of the spring. It's just on the upside. Fails to show that acceptance above the high, right? Which is what you would want to see. Just bumps into that upside reference point, 770. Sellers step in there, and then it enters into a bit of an intraday downtrend. Now, as far as, let me clear these levels off and we'll take a look at the actual near-term structure here. As far as the actual structure is pretty similar to what we just discussed on ES. You got the big breakout down through here, that 2370 area, 20,370. Price still in a pretty clear, from a structural perspective, pretty clear uptrend. Right now, if we jump over to the daily chart, definitely some indecision here, a little bit of exhaustion. You have a daily time frame doji there. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Same type of approach in NQ for tomorrow as ES. We want to look at the reaction versus today's low. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting here that I just noticed on NQ is this week's volume point of control is actually below. It's actually down into 630. Price currently above. Let's look at ES. ES volume point of control is above. Right? And this actually looks like it has a bit more exhaustion, like it's a little bit heavier. Plus, price really failed to show sustained action above that prior day high. So just some key differences. We've been noting the divergence between ES and NQ lately. It has been definitely more significant than I can remember in at least recent memory. And so they should be treated differently. They should be traded differently. They used to be quite correlated, seeing almost the exact same moves, right? And now we're seeing some pretty significant differences. Like, for example, today ES was pressing session highs while NQ was down into the lows. So it is worth watching both, in my opinion, if you have the mental bandwidth and the screen space for it. If not, pick one or the other. That would be fine. But just understand that they have been trading quite differently as of late. So main watch for tomorrow, ESNQ is going to be today's low in the reaction versus today's low, seeing if sellers are able to materialize within the context of what is still a higher time frame breakout. Could definitely still be a slower session tomorrow, given that we have CPI Thursday, PPI Friday. So hope everyone had a good sesh. Didn't burn too much of your mental capital today. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM in the Traders Think Tank. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good afternoon.